during historic periods in our development here in this country. During the 60s, it was termed a volatile period by the mass media, but I think it was a very interesting period looking back for our people. During the civil rights movement, you had the rise of the Black Power movement, and one of the most active and historic grassroots groups during that period was the Black Panthers. Our guest tonight was a veteran of the Black Panther Party and the former Minister of the Interior of the Republic of New Africa, a former political prisoner, and the only American to have successfully self-authored his civil political rights case to the United Nations under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. In connection with his political organizing activities, Mr. Larry Pinkney was interviewed in 1988 on the nationally televised McNeil-Lehrer Hour, and more recently on nationally syndicated Alex Jones Show. Larry Pinkney is a former university instructor and political scientist, and also on international relations. And his writings have been published in various places, including the Boston Globe, San Francisco Bayview newspaper, the Black Commentator, the Intrepid Report, Global Research in Canada, and many other publications worldwide. He is in the archives of Dr. Huey P. Newton at Sanford University in California, the co-founder of the Black Panther Party. And for more about our guests, check out the book Saying No to Power, an autobiography of a 20th century activist and thinker. Welcome to our program, Brother Larry Pinkney. Brother Larry.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How are you, sir?
Well, my brother, I'm fine. The struggle continues. I want you and your audience to know that I am deeply honored and delighted to be on your program this evening.
Brother Pinkney, I'm here with my co-host, Brother Reggie.
Brother Reggie.
How you doing, my brother?
I am maintaining. Struggle goes on. How are you,
I'm doing good. I'm trying to do the same, my brother.
I hear you.
Brother Pinkney, you know, I said in the beginning that it's always interesting on Time for an Awakening to have people that was involved during historic periods in our development here in this country. And during the 60s and early 70s, that was a real active period for a lot of our young people in this country, getting involved with the civil rights organization, whether you're talking about SNCC, and one of the most influential groups, in my opinion, during that period was the Black Panthers. Before I get into which your work now, which is in the writing and media portion of your life, talk about your early life. Before you got involved with the Panthers, your upbringing, were your parents active or activists, or you just developed this mentality on your own? Talk about how what led you to be involved with the Black Panther Party.
Well, my parents, my mother and my father, both came from farm families in Maryland, southern state of Maryland. Though for the most part we lived in D.C., in Chocolate City. And I constantly would hear conversations between my mother and father, discussing the critical issues of the day as they related to the struggle on the part of black people and other oppressed people, for that matter. And it always occurred to me, I was one of those kids who would sit back and quietly listen. I was intrigued by what they had to say. I think they kind of knew I was listening too. And so I was greatly influenced, especially by some of the things, well, both parents, that my dad said and my mother. But being school teachers, they were extremely strict, and I make no bones about that. I grew up in a very, very strict family, along with my sister, Jeanette. And now, of course, I'm extremely appreciative for that. Discipline was extremely important. I went to all black schools until the 11th grade. In the 11th grade, believe it or not, I went to an all-white school. I was the only initially there were 2 blacks, and then I was the only black in the school of 3,000. And this school was in Maryland. It was infested, and I use that word deliberately, with Ku Klux Klan members. But the students, many of them were Klan members, even though the school itself was a quote-unquote middle-class school. Middle to upper class. In any event, the point is that I learned at a very early age just how serious the struggle is. I mean, there were classes that I could not attend because I was black. There were classes that I did attend. I would raise my hand, and the teachers would ignore me, et cetera, et cetera. But because I had had a grounding in all black schools prior, it really didn't affect me that much. In fact, I remember an experience in a school. My teacher's name was Dedovich, Mr. Dedovich, and he was one of the few there who was extremely, shall I say, conscious. And I had the opportunity, and he made sure I had the opportunity to let the other students clearly see that they weren't dealing with a dummy. As a matter of fact, I knew more about their culture than they knew about their, and I say culture, I should say culture is S on the end of that word, than they knew about my experiences and what I had come from. So I was very grateful and thankful, one, for having been able to attend the black schools and learn so much in terms of reality, not just book learning, but also reality. And to this day, I'm still grateful to Dedovich. I think he was a man of principle, and this led me to think. Now, moving on very quickly, brother, that was in 1960, 65 to 66, and then I left after the 11th grade. I finished the 11th grade and went to California, and by that time, as a result of my experiences, which had been well honed, considering the fact that one of my classmates was actually the nephew at the school in Maryland of the Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. So let's just say I had firsthand experience in having to struggle and fight in every sense of the word for my survival. But when I went to California, I, of course, became extremely aware of the Black Panther Party, which, in fact, had been founded. It was founded by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale in October of 1966 in Oakland, California, where it was founded. And when I went to California, I was attracted to the Black Panther Party because the first time I saw the young brothers, and I say young brothers, my God, I was young myself, I was impressed by their discipline. They were extremely disciplined, extremely respectful, and no nonsense, okay? And coming from a very strict family, coming from a family that insisted that I read and study, that appealed to me. So I joined the party approximately a year after it was founded. I joined the party in 1967.
Were you on a college campus at that time, or did you go on to institutional higher learning, where you met a lot of the Panthers?
I joined when I joined the party. I was actually a high school student.
Okay.
I graduated from high school in 1968. I had joined the party in '67. Went to school in Southern California, and then went up to Northern California, and then that's where I attended City College of San Francisco and San Francisco State, which put me right in the middle of the very famous or well-known San Francisco State and City College strike, student strike, and I was deeply involved in that as the chair of the Black Student Union at City College, and allied closely with the Black Student Union, of course, at San Francisco State. They were only like 2.5 miles apart physically. So I hope that answers that anyway.
Yes. Moving on, you became the the Minister of the Interior for the Republic of New Africa. What years was that?
We're talking approximately 71, and I say this because even when I was in the party, I was allowed to work with the RNA. That's what we called it, the RNA. And I was very fortunate in that I knew Brother Huey P. Newton. And with all due respect, I should refer to him as Dr. Huey P. Newton, because he did in fact get his PhD from the University of University of California at Santa Cruz. In any event, I took my instructions primarily from Brother Huey, since he and I did have a very, very comradely relationship, and I had the utmost respect for him. Now, one of the things that Huey and I used to always talk about was the need to broaden the scope of the party. When I say the party, folks, I'm talking about the Black Panther Party. So we say the party. And my concern was that I really, really wanted to see a closer working alliance between the BPP, the party, and the Republic of New Africa. And with permission from Brother Huey, I was able to reach out to the brothers and sisters in the RNA, and it led to my being appointed as the Western Regional Minister of Interior of the RNA, even as I worked with the BPP. And I was able to, and I don't like using this word I. Let me just put it this way. Fortunately, it led to a very strong working alliance between the BPP and the RNA. And let's just say I'm extremely, to this very day, honored and pleased at the role that I played in it.
You know, during that period that you were involved in the Panthers and the Republic of New Africa as a young man, I know that your parents had to be concerned for you. And I guess you had to be concerned for yourself, because you knew that a lot of things was going on, Cointelpro and other things, and I want to touch on that later on in the program. But I just want to mention that now. Yeah. A lot of men losing their lives, the police coming at them from every turn. What did you... How did your parents feel about you being involved, and how did that evidently that didn't stop you from being involved, but were you concerned about these things?
Absolutely. I was extremely concerned. I had close friends and comrades who were murdered, who were set up, who were framed. I myself was attacked physically, had bones broken by the police and by vigilantes. And this was in the Bay Area. When I say Bay Area, I'm talking about the Oakland, San Francisco, Berkeley Bay. We call it the Bay Area. And especially the fact that I had close friends who were either killed or who had to flee to exile from the United States, or get out of the United States if they were going to stay alive. So yes, of course, I was extremely concerned. My parents, especially my father, I shall never forget a conversation that I had on the telephone with him. And he said to me, "I hear you are a Black Panther." Now, he was still, in Maryland /DC. I'm at that time in California. So I said, yes. And he said to me, "Son, I'm very proud of you, but for God's sake, be careful." And that kind of sums it up,
okay.
What can I say? I remember once I was a section leader in the party. Once our section of about 10, 12 Panthers actually got on a transit bus, and we made everyone get up and let all the elderly people sit down. And, of course, no one was going to say no. We were all, let's just put it this way, well-disciplined, and they knew we meant business. I was standing over a sister who I thought at the time was very old. She was probably my age now. But anyway, she looked up at me, and she had been holding a bag of groceries, and I said, "Sister, I'll hold them for you." And she looked up at me, brother. She had tears in her eyes, and she's looking at me with my Black Panther my black beret, with my free, with my image of the party, the buttons, etc., etc. She looked up at me, Brother Elliott, with tears in her eyes, and she said, "Boy, you better be careful." And she had great pride.
Okay.
You could see the pride that she had in her eyes. And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'll be careful. I'll always remember that."
Brother Pinkney, before we move into some of your writings, because you have two interesting articles that I want to deal with on Time for an Awakening. You spent 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, in prison as a political prisoner. You talked about how the FBI and other CIA and other organizations working under the guise of Cointelpro came at a lot of our people during this period. You don't have to necessarily go into detail, but just tell us what happened that led to the frame up to you spending 10 years of your life behind bars as a political prisoner.
Well, I can best sum it up by reading from my FBI file, if you don't mind. It's very short.
No, I don't.
In fact, if anyone else wants to read what I'm about to read, they can do so by getting the book Saying No to Power is the name of the book by William Mandel, introduction by Howard Zinn. Anyway, let me just read to you what the government had to say. Okay? I think it will answer your question totally. It says, and this is directly from the FBI file, quote, "Pinkney is potentially dangerous due to his demonstrated ability to unify black and white. His associates are Negro, white, and Chinese. Special attention is being given to, quote, neutralizing him. The areas of sex and drugs appear to be the most effective ones to utilize. His habits in these areas are unknown, but are being monitored with this objective. The FBI is working in conjunction with," and that's just blacked out on the file. It says that it's a covering note to the U.S. Secret Service, San Francisco, accompanied it. And that's the end of the quote. Does that explain anything as to why I and so many others went to prison? We were targeted, and people just still, it is the 21st century, and people still fail to understand how vicious and insidious this government is, what it will do. They will do anything. There are no boundaries. And, I think that especially that section of my file speaks for itself.
Brother Larry, you wrote an article for the Intrepid Report, and I think that you're one of the editors, if not the managing editor.
Associate editor.
Okay,
yes.
Of the Intrepid Report. Mm-hmm. Two articles there that I really want to go into on Time for an Awakening this evening, and if we don't do it tonight, the callers ask other questions, then I'll reach out to you for part two of this discussion. But the first one was the January 21st article, 2013, The Need for a Sustained People's Conscious Movement. Now, you yourself just talked about your early life and how you as a young man was involved in a conscious movement. Talk about, in your opinion, what you meant by the title of this article.
What I meant by that, and thank you, that's a great question. What I meant by that was what Steve Biko, from the late Steve Biko, martyred Steve Biko in South Africa, said when he, and I'm going to quote him in one sentence. Steve Biko said, quote, that the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed, unquote. My point is that what better way to enslave a people and control a people and manipulate a people and divide a people and confuse a people than to keep those people unconscious? I don't care what their color or what their gender is. However, black people, i.e. black Americans / African Americans, The point is, as Brother Malcolm said so many times over and over again, is that we are literally in a war, quote, where we are fighting, it's a clash, as he said, I'm quoting him directly, between those who really want freedom, justice, and equality for everyone, and those who really want to continue the system of exploitation. Consciousness. Instead of sitting in front of that blasted idiot box and being fed the propaganda, and that's all it is. It's just fallacious propaganda, being fed propaganda about ourselves, about this nation, about this world. We should be, in fact, reading books, communicating with each other, books such as Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon, books such as Unity and Struggle by Amilcar Cabral, books such as To Die for the People by Huey P. Newton, books such as Body and Soul by Sister Alondra Nelson, books, I can go on and on, books, The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. We need to raise our consciousness so that we truly understand what is going on and how we are being politically pimped, because the pain of black people and all oppressed people is being pimped. But if a person is asleep, as Brother Malcolm said, it's sort of like when you go to the dentist and they shoot that Novocaine. You bleeding all over the place, but the blood is dripping all over your mouth and dripping down on your chest. But you don't see a thing. So they shot that Novocaine up in you. And that's what I meant. I meant that it is time for us to get off of this systemic drug. I call it a systemic drug, okay? And we need to reconnect first with ourselves, secondly with each other, thirdly with the human family on Mother Earth, totally and completely, in this nation and around the world, my brother. That's what I meant.
We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation and dialogue with one of our movers and shakers during the early 60s, the mid-60s and late 60s and early 70s, Mr. Larry Pinkney, veteran of the Black Panther Party and former Minister of the Interior for the Republic of New Africa, is joining us in conversation, and we'll be right back after we break for our sponsors. Welcome back to Time for an Awakening, and we're joined in conversation this evening with writer, lecturer, and columnist Larry Pinkney, former veteran of the Black Panther Party, the former Minister of the Interior of the Republic of New Africa, and a former political prisoner for over 10 years of his life. Now he's currently writing for the Boston Globe, the San Francisco Bayview Examiner, the San Francisco Bayview newspaper, Black Commentator, the Intrepid Report, Global Research, and a lot of other periodicals where his valuable information is being dispensed. Brother Pinkney?
Yes, sir.
We left off the conversation there talking about the article that you wrote in the Intrepid Report, the need for sustained people's conscious movement, the January 21st, 2013 article. You talked about your educational upbringing, and you look now at the public education, especially in the inner cities, where it's woefully lacking. Our children are lagging behind. And it kind of piggybacks or follows up. Since when our folks came here as chattels when we came here in chattel enslavement, it was a conscious and concerted effort that our people become ignorant. We couldn't read. We couldn't congregate. We couldn't discuss issues. We had to do things covertly. And even when we were allowed to attend school, it was a concerted effort to miseducate our people, and especially the children. Talk about the need for us as adults to develop the art of critical thinking among our young people. I think it's paramount. And the reason I think it's paramount because our people look for deliverance in religious organizations. They look for deliverance politically, when if they look at these things critically, they might come up with solutions where we can deliver ourselves with the Almighty's help. But talk about, in your opinion, the need for critical thinking.
The need for critical thinking is, in my opinion, the single most important component that is lacking in our existence. And I use the word existence because if you're not critically thinking, you're not really living, you're existing. And it's two different things. One can exist or one can live. Critical thinking means that we truly look at things from a number of historical as well as contemporary aspects, and we connect the two. But we have not been doing that collectively. I said in the article that, this may offend people, but so be it. I said in the article that you referred to in Intrepid, I said perhaps the single most devastating mental blow by the U.S. corporate elite thus far this century to the developing consciousness of everyday people of all colors was the grooming and subsequent installment of the corporate military Trojan horse, Barack Obama, as the, quote, colored, unquote, face of the continuing U.S. empire. I said that, I stand by that. The reality is that there are no single saviors. No single saviors. People must collectively and consciously, the two C's, conscious and collective, come together to, quote, save ourselves. We don't look to someone else who, by the way, interests has very little to do with our own. Pigmentation has absolutely, in fact, pigmentation has been used, abused, and distorted to the point where even the racism, if you will, that we suffer and continue to suffer, and by the way, increasingly suffer, black, quote-unquote, president or not, okay? Racism is being effectively used against us by a system that is well honed. I mean, what better way to control the people than put a tool, a puppet, in that these people identify with because they are not critically thinking. We need to critically think. And this is something that, while it may be offensive to people, I say so be it. I am trying to get people to save their lives and to save their minds, to regain, if you will, their humanity and their mental capabilities. We are not stupid, as Gil Scott-Heron pointed out in that great cut that you played just now. We're not dumb. We're not. But we have been sucked. We've allowed ourselves to be mentally sucked in and put into a state of unconsciousness where we look at things superficially. We don't study. We don't pay attention. And then we turn around and go, my goodness, how did we get here? How did this happen? It happened because we allowed it to happen. We were complicit in it. So I'm sorry, I'm getting off the beaten track.
All those things you said, you need to have discipline to study. You have to have the discipline to be able to think critically, to comprehend, and to see what's going on. It all starts with discipline, my brother. So you can keep going on. Keep going on.
Well, I thank you. And I mean this with the utmost respect. I mean, we have the human power, if you will, the human power. We are humans. We are part of the human family. We don't need to identify with any single individual. We need to identify first collectively as black people and then collectively as a part of the entire human family of all colors, black, white, brown, red, and yellow. Okay? And we don't do this because we've allowed ourselves to be politically pimped. And I use this expression repeatedly, the pimping the pain of the people. And I go back to what Steve Biko said. I quote him, his words when he pointed out that really, I couldn't have said it any better, that the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. I love the name of your program because that says it all. Awakening. We need a renaissance. It is time for us to awaken if we are not only to survive, but to thrive as a part of the entire human family.
We have a call on the line, and our online listeners that are out there that communicate with Brother Reg during the week, give us a call toll free, 1-866-361-0900. That's 1-866-361-0900. We love to listen to our out-of-town listeners. But let's go to Sister Omalara in South Philadelphia. Sister Omalara.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, my sister.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. I hope you're doing the same. At the beginning of the program, you said something about people can't imagine what was done back then. But I think now, after this NDAA, really knows how much and how far the government will go.
Well,
because you don't even have to have a trial now.
You jumped the gun on us, Sister Omalara. I was going to get to that. You done jumped the gun. But I'm glad that you mentioned that. But we're going to talk about that. I'm glad that you mentioned it.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're going to talk about it, because this has really shown you just how far it'll go and how they got a black man to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Sister Omalara.
On the radio.
Thank you for your call. There's a line available. You can give us a call, 215-634-8065. A call just dropped off. You know, Brother Pinkney, before we move into the most powerful article that I've seen in recent months, the December 20th article titled Drone Missiles, Guns, and Mass Murder American Style. Before we talk about that, I want you to talk about, we know that Cointelpro, as far as what they want to acknowledge, ended in the 70s, started by J. Edgar Hoover and others. And it had its course, it ran its course, and it supposedly ended in the 70s. And when it supposedly ended, it left a trail of carnage, of destroyed lives, and some men still, I think, and you can verify this better than me, hundreds, maybe thousands of people behind bars as political prisoners, families destroyed, and lives destroyed. Before you talk about that, do you believe in your mind somebody that suffered and that was hounded by Cointelpro and the FBI? Do you believe that Cointelpro is over, or has it morphed into something else? I believe, and me and Reggie talk about this a lot, that Cointelpro, or surveillance, or internal surveillance on our people, has just morphed into other things. I want to ask you, as a man that have experienced the dastardly deeds of this country firsthand, what do you think about Cointelpro?
Well, my brother, obviously, you and Brother Reggie are critical thinkers, okay? Obviously. The reality is, quite bluntly stated, Cointelpro has never ended. It has never ended. It has, in fact, morphed into more insidious and dangerous aspects to black people in general, and specifically, and to all people in general, quite frankly. Cointelpro, which is known as the counterintelligence program, was specifically set up to, and I quote from the U.S. congressional records, to quote, to discredit, to frame, to imprison, and in many cases to quote, murder. This is right out of the U.S. congressional records, book 3. You just Google it, and the information is there. Of course, it is still with us. It is with us more now than ever before, and it's so effective because so many people are sleeping. In fact, they're snoring.
Well, you know, what you just described, Brother Pinkney, is state-sponsored terrorism.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Okay.
That is absolutely correct.
As long as they have a military, they're going to have Cointelpro in full effect.
That's right. That's right. And Sister that just called,
yeah, Sister Omalara, yeah.
She's right on top of it, because there's a direct link between the so-called National Defense Authorization Act, i.e. NDAA, and Cointelpro. What do people think that's all about? You know, at least under when Cointelpro was blatant, it was said that Cointelpro was in fact in violation of the law. Well, now the law has been tweaked to the point where, and I know I'm jumping the gun, but I'll just say this, it's been tweaked to the point where there is no law to protect black people or any people.
Under our first African-American president.
Exactly. Point well made.
Brother Larry, your December 20th article, 2012, in the Intrepid Report, Drones, Missiles, Guns, and Mass Murder American Style, you take a quote from Martin Luther King's speech at the Riverside Church in 1967, and I'll read it to you because I want you to talk about this leading into this article. In his April 4th, 1967 speech, Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break the Silence, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. poignantly described the government of the United States as the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today. Sadly, in the 21st century, Dr. King's words are even more relevant and accurate. Talk about that.
The reality of today is that King's words, Dr. King's words, have become where at one time it was a small nightmare. Okay, at one time relatively small, wasn't small to those of us who were being brutalized by it. Okay, but now it is a massive legalized nightmare, and the violence that is carried out by this government, the drone missiles, killing mostly children, women, and old men. That's who Obama's missiles are killing, folks. That's who. Okay? There's no such thing as targeting these people. They take out whole wedding parties. Sorry, folks. You know, it these kinds of things, this violence. And by the way, we need to understand that that violence, those missiles, those bombs, were used and still are being used in Libya. By the way, that's Africa, folks. That's North Africa. In Somalia, that's Africa, folks. That's East Africa. In Yemen, Bahrain, Afghanistan, Pakistan, I can go on and on and on. How can we possibly call ourselves a peace-loving people or a peace-loving country and yet simultaneously condone such out-and-out murder? And we can't. We can't. And we as black people, all people have a responsibility and obligation. But we as black people, as black people should know better after all we have been through and all we are still going through and struggling. So what do? They get somebody who looks like us to perpetrate, and perpetuate this madness, this insanity. You know, brother, you and I were talking earlier, and I said that I had been in Africa and in the quote-unquote Middle East, and this was some years ago, okay, in the 70s and 80s, and the respect that the brothers and sisters had for black America over there. Guess what? That respect is dissipating. Why is it dissipating? Because it is presented as if black America collectively is complicit, and it is complicit, unfortunately, and it is presented as if it's supporting the murders of people all over the world, particularly in Africa and the so-called Middle East. So, people wake up. Pay attention.
Let's go to the phones again. Brother Joe in Germantown. Brother Joe.
Hi, Brother Elliott. How you doing, Elliott?
How are you, sir?
Hi, Brother Reggie.
How you doing, my brother?
And hi to my beautiful brother. Brother, I've been so sitting here listening to you, brother. You got me so mesmerized. I forgot the brother's name. What's your name, family?
Larry Pinkney. Brother
Pinkney, I tell you, Brother Pinkney, everything what you stand in, Elliott and Reggie, to you, my kindred spirit, Brother Pinkney, because I've been saying the same things. Sometimes I fall on deaf ears without people, because I said the same thing, Brother Pinkney. Check this out. I said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Fannie Hamer, Paul Robeson, Dr. King, these people made friends for black folks around the world. We didn't have a damn friend out here except us. And they made still there to make friends for our people around the world. I said, but between Condoleezza Sleazy Rice and Colin Uncle Tom Powell and Barack Mr. John Obama, these Negroes have put a black face on white power, and the sympathy and the admiration that people have got for black people over the years because of the sisters and brothers I just mentioned, it's been slowly dissipated, as you said, Brother Pinkney, because of the action of Barack Obama and others like him. And our people, we so dense, we don't seem to get it. Why would you want, like you said, Brother Pinkney, why would you want as a black man or woman who have suffered the stuff we suffer to sit there and turn a deaf eye to what Barack Obama is doing because of blackface is doing? Some of these Negroes like Sharpton and Jesse, they be screaming holy hell if Reagan or Bush or one of them Caucasian devils was doing this, but because Barack Obama is sending drones, killing people, they act like it's not even happening. Those people are no less dead, Brother Pinkney, because Obama sending the drones. No more would they be if it was George Bush or Reagan or Clinton or the rest of them devils. Just our people still dying around the world, and our people should be ashamed of themselves to sit back and condone this stuff because Barack Obama is doing this. This guy's a disgrace to black people, to disgrace to mankind, and we should raise holy hell against this guy, but we not, because we are so happy, child. We seen the first black president, child. We just so happy. Black face on white power means nothing. We should all do that, but we live in a city, Brother Pinkney, here in Philadelphia. We had the first black Negro mayor back in 1983, Wilson Good. And what happened? The white man used a Negro like him to bomb a whole city, kill black women and children. And we still ain't learned our lesson yet, brother. You understand, Brother Pinkney? We still haven't learned yet. Haven't learned yet, brother. So, I mean, it's just so, and I know some of the people that heard me what I'm saying, they don't like what I'm saying. Some of them Muslims, some of them Christians, some of them no religion. But the truth is the truth. We have got to speak truth to power. And Brother Pinkney, like I said, and I close with this, brother, you might can despair for you as a black man that had a heart to say that, because you're not going to be popular sin among some of our people. I don't care whether it's people in your family, or your friends, your religious friends or family members. They don't like what you say because they so engulfed and enthralled by this smart talking, handsome, charlatan Negro that's in the White House. So they don't like what you're saying, but it's the truth, bro. And I'll let you go on that.
Thank you for your call, Joe.
Wow.
Brother Pinkney.
Wow, brother. What can I say?
Listen, I want to reach out to you next week because there was so many other things that I wanted to talk to you about in this article. Reggie had been busting at the seams because he had some things he wanted to mention, and we got to get you back on for part 2 of this discussion next week.
Thank you. I am definitely looking forward to it. As I said, it's an honor and a privilege, and as we said in the party, all power to the people. I look forward to it.
But Brother Pinkney, before you leave tonight, give out any contacts where people can read some of the articles. Give out all the information that you want to before we leave there this evening.
Fantastic. Well, people can read my articles in a number of places. The first place would be, of course, blackcommentator.com. I write a column called Keeping It Real. The second place, or another place, would be Intrepid Report. That's intrepidreport.com. Just put in my name once you get to Intrepid, and you'll see the many columns that I've written and write for Intrepid. The other place would be Black Activist Writers Guild, and that's blackactivistwritersguild.org. Just, you can Google that. And the other place, or yet another place, would be Larry Pinkney Archives, and you'll see a number of articles from all over the world that I've written. But, the struggle goes on, and I'm just a part of it. We're all collectively a part of it. I'm honored. I thank you so much. I thank both of you brothers and the entire listening audience. And you know what? I don't give a damn about being popular. Malcolm wasn't popular. Dr. King wasn't popular. Huey wasn't popular. But you know what? We're part of a popular people struggle.
I want to thank you for being with us this evening, sir. Look forward to next week.
Thank you. Take care,
my brother.
But you know what? We're part of a popular people struggle.
I want to take you for being with us this evening, sir. Look forward to next week.
Thank you. Take care.
You, my brother.
Stay strong.
All right, now, peace.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for listening to the program this evening. A lively discussion as always, and we'll be back next week, Lord willing, to continue on this path towards an awakening. Peace. Tonight, we're into part 2 of our discussion with writer, activist, lecturer, and columnist, Mr. Larry Pinkney, a former veteran of the Black Panther Party, the former Minister of the Interior of the Republic of New Africa, a former political prisoner, and the only American to have successfully self-authored his civil political rights case to the United Nations under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Mr. Pinkney is a former university instructor of political science and international relations, and his writing has been published in various places, including the Boston Globe, San Francisco Bayview newspaper, the Black Commentator, the Intrepid Report, and numerous other periodicals and newspapers. He is also in the archives of Dr. Huey P. Newton at Stanford University in California, co-founder of the Black Panther Party. Please welcome back to our program, right, Brother Larry Pinkney. Brother Pinkney.
Sir, yes, sir. How are you?
How are you doing this evening?
I am fine, and it's wonderful to hear both of you brothers. I want to thank everyone, including the audience. It's a delight, a profound delight and honor being on the program again.
Brother Pinkney, you know, it was an interesting discussion we had last week. We kind of talked in brief about your life, how you got started in activism with the Black Panthers and moved on to different stages in your life. And we see now that you're spending a lot of your time putting together profound and provocative pieces for the Black Commentator and several other periodicals. Talk about what started you to writing. Were you always writing when you were younger, even involved with the Panthers, or what started your writing?
Well, I periodically wrote when I was, in fact, in the party, in the Black Panther Party, but that was just periodical. What really got me to, or I should say inspired me to begin to write on a regular basis and in earnest was the fact that in the 21st century, beginning in 2000, 2001, it was so obvious that people, black people in particular, and people in general of all colors, were in a sense losing a grasp of our historical perspective of real, serious struggle and activism in this nation. And so I remember the words of Brother Malcolm X and James Baldwin and so many others, frankly, who emphasized the need to write. And I also remembered what my comrade, Brother Huey P. Newton, said to me in a conversation once where he talked about the power of the pen. That's not the only power, but the pen, i.e. writing, can in fact be effective and powerful if people read and critically think.
You know, getting back to our conversation, we had to put a pin in it last week because it got so interesting and the time caught up with us. Several articles we were focusing in on during our conversation. The December 20th, 2012 article, Drones, Missiles, Guns, and Mass Murder American Style. Also, your article in the Black Commentator, Barack Obama, Trojan Horse, or Great White Hope. You know, you made a statement here, and I want you to talk about that because it's very interesting. In the article, Barack Obama, Trojan Horse, or Great White Hope, you state, there are many in Black America who legitimately question Mr. Obama's commitment to Black Americans and who wonder if white America has at last attained its Trojan horse. Black U.S. presidential candidate in the person of Barack Obama, as Conrad Worrell, director of inner city studies at Northeastern Illinois University, is quoted as saying in the Los Angeles Times, the question is, will this generation of new college-trained beneficiaries of black political power movement in America fight for black political interests. Talk about that statement you made in that article, Brother Pinkney.
Thank you so much for actually picking that particular statement. I think that there are at least 2 or 3 things that I'm trying, or points that I'm trying to make strongly in that statement. One is that we must remember that the beneficiaries of the ongoing, and I stress ongoing, black political struggle and the struggle of people of all colors, but in this case, the ongoing struggle of black people in this nation and no doubt throughout the world, the beneficiaries of that struggle are people who, as Conrail pointed out, they benefited from the jailings, the imprisonment, and by the way, we have thousands of political prisoners, most of whom are black in this country, black and brown and red. They benefited directly from the blood, sweat, and tears, quite literally, of organizations such as the Black Panther Party, the Republic of New Africa, the American Indian Movement, SNCC, that is Student National or Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the Revolutionary Action Movement, etc., etc. The membership and leadership of those organizations were more often than not framed, murdered, and or imprisoned. And we must remember that nothing comes about by osmosis. There's a big difference in a person being a, quote, merely being biologically a black person, that is to say outwardly, but inwardly is precisely the same kind of person that Brother Malcolm talked about when he said there are folks who are exploiters, folks who are oppressors, and the clashes between them and those who are oppressed. There's a big difference in somebody just being biologically black, but it simultaneously an oppressor. And this is essentially, and I say an oppressor, that's a sort of wide term, so let me be more specific. Economically, socially, and politically, black and other poor people in this country are suffering at disproportionately high rates, and it is getting worse.
Yes, sir.
You know, the corporate stream media would have us believe otherwise, but we should be using our eyes, our ears, and all of our senses that we have to recognize the fact that simply because we have a chief executive, head of the U.S. military, sitting in the White House, instead of changing things, what has actually happened is that we have someone who is not serving the interests of black people, or for that matter, of all the people, irrespective of color. So it's really, and I can't overemphasize this, it is really important for black America collectively to understand that our struggle goes on and not be blinded by an infantile, immature, and very easily distorted and used sense of misplaced, and I use the word misplaced pride. If we are going to have pride, let us have pride in all those sisters and brothers who have gone before, who have paid with their lives. And quite frankly, there are still many, many sisters and brothers of all colors who are still paying with their lives, who are still political prisoners in these gulags called U.S. prison. That's what I was trying to get across in that statement.
You know, to kind of follow it up, you made another statement that's similar in your most recent article on the Black commentator, Can Black America Survive Drone Man Barack Obama? You stated, frankly, whether we survive or not remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. If we are to survive and regain our rightful places as a part of a global human family, we must exercise political and social consciousness as critical thinkers We must be principled. We must quickly cease from allowing ourselves to be a perpetual pawns of the color game, the game which implies that if a person is black, then he or she must be given a pass, no matter what he or she does. This is folly. Malcolm X was absolutely correct when he said, wrong is wrong, no matter who does it or who says it. Talk about that statement, Brother Pinkney.
Yes, to follow up, yes, definitely. It is imperative to understand that, and I say this all the time, black is as black does. In other words, black is more than a color. It's deeper than that. We have to understand that we have a responsibility to have one conscience, C-O-N-S-C-I-E-N-C-E, conscience. And we have a responsibility to be conscious, to go back to the name of your program, you and Reggie's program, an awakening. We have to be awake to reality and stop being distracted and use, as I believe I used the term, perpetual pawn. We allow ourselves too often to be perpetual pawns, ping pongs being slapped back and forth across the net. And this happens because we have neglected to critically think about what it is that we need to be doing in order to liberate ourselves politically, socially, economically, culturally, etc.
Let's go to the phones. We have Ralph and Yaden. Ralph?
Hey, good evening, Booker. Good evening, Reggie.
How are you, sir?
Hey, Ralph.
Hey, good evening, sir. And Brother Elliott took it right out of my... He went on ahead and said what I wanted to say from last week. That is a good example of what you have, the Trojan horse example of our president. He was like presented to us as a gift, or can I say the corporation presented him to us as a gift. And now we're starting to see the enemy inside, some of us. Like this program, Time for Awakening, you just got finished saying it, sir. A lot of us aren't even awake. And, I just called you because, first of all, it's an honor to talk to someone with your courage. And at a young age, man, I wanted to ask you your honest opinion. What attracted you at a young age to do the right thing for your people? Because we're lacking. Our youth are not, they're more involved with Xbox and rap music. But you brothers were young, you were educated, you were disciplined, nothing like what the media presented to us. And I just want to hear out of your mouth, what attracted you to the Black Panther?
Thank you, brother. What attracted me to the Black Panther Party was, one, the fact that I could see that these young sisters and brothers, and I say young sisters and brothers, I was among them, but these young sisters and brothers were serious about systemic change. They were serious about standing up to the oppression and decided that we were going to do something about it, whether it was our breakfast programs and, of course, self-defense, and we meant self-defense. We weren't playing. Whether, as I said, whether it was breakfast programs or other food programs or clothing programs. And what attracted me, I was fortunate in the sense that I read, my brother. I read Frantz Fanon. I read Brother Malcolm X's writings. I was even fortunate enough to have met Malcolm in the early 60s before this government assassinated him. I read, I studied, and I questioned, always questioned. And that's what attracted me to the party, because I understood that we were the only people who were going to do for us was we ourselves, as it should be.
Right. Now, brother, and what I wanted to also say to you, what I wanted to say to you also was, a lot of our folks, they are attracted to tokenism and emotionalism, and I believe that's the reason why so many of us are distracted, because I was looking at the State of the Union address, President Obama's State of the Union, and I was listening to the way he was talking to the audience. And I said, and after, maybe you can answer me, but I said, that's the reason why this brother or this man was in Jeremiah Wright's church for so long. He was studying the way Jeremiah Wright talks to his captive audience and found out that when he preaches, especially to our sisters, they get emotionally drawn in. Forget what this brother's doing. Forget the drones that are now flying over the United States. Our people are still being locked up at it's outrageous the way these brothers are being locked up and thrown in prison for a marijuana joint. So, I just seen this and I said, well, wait a minute. This brother said, or this man said that gas prices will go down, but yet since the State of the Union, gas prices are shooting up. So everything this guy says is a lie, but our people still hold on to him and his representatives, Al Sharpton, Mark Muriel, and Ben Jealous. We're in a bad situation, brother, and I'm glad that you're out there. I will start reading the Black Commentator, and it's just an honor and a pleasure to talk to you tonight.
Thank you for your call.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. I'm in both the Black Commentator. My column is called Keeping It Real. That's my column in BC. And also Intrepid Report. Check them out as well, since I write for them. And let me just say that this is an ongoing, protracted struggle. We got to get out of that mentality. I call it the Hollyweird mentality, as Gil Scott-Heron used to say. We got to get out of that Hollyweird mentality and get real and understand that this struggle means just that, struggle. And we have to use our minds, as I said last week, as critical thinkers. And we can do this. We can do this.
All right. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you for your call, Ralph. Let's see. Yeah, we'll take the next call. Let's go to Timothy in South Philadelphia. Timothy?
Yes. Thanks a lot, Elliott, for having a person like this come before us, man. He seems spectacular. How are you, Reggie?
I'm doing great. How are you, Timothy?
That's good. My brother, I'm very impressed with what you're saying on the air. I agree with you that we need to be critical thinking and critical thinkers. And I say that to say that the books that influenced me very early in understanding what our struggle war about was Revolutionary Suicide. Oh, yeah. Fire Next Time, Baldwin. Go Tell It on the Mountain, Baldwin. Langston Hughes, A Negro Speaks of Rivers. All those things fast-tracked me right into a situation to having a consciousness. But what even made it better and what helped to shape me in my thinking was what was going on in the community. Now, it's interesting how this generation takes a hold of what goes on in the community in a music sense, in an entertaining sense. And the people of my generation, I was born in 61, who became conscious, we took on the struggle in a way of reading in order to have businesses in our community. For instance, we're dealing with a situation now where we're having a state takeover of privatization. And I haven't seen a movement like this in a long time where folks are talking about civil disobedience. They do not want public education taken over by privatization. See, here we have the stirring of a consciousness that I thought was dormant coming to life. But here we go again, brother. Even during your time period, we got to be careful of the bourgeois, the petty bourgeoisie.
Yes, my brother. Yes.
See, because in the takeover, if we do come to the point where we're able to get the right things in our neighborhoods as far as education is concerned, because they're only taking the schools in the black neighborhoods, we got to watch out how the petty bourgeois step in and become just like the enemy.
Hey, Timothy, I like to say one thing, and I know we have our great guest on. You know, we have to remember the definition of community. And I think when you're talking about at the time frame you're talking about, it was defined and actual as a reality. We don't really have communities right now. You just have groups of people who live together. We don't even really have families because they're not working for the same interests. I just want to put that out there now. Would you see the fragmentation of our children and what they're doing? Because they're not being steered to reading books like it was done in the past. I was born in 1971, and I couldn't go out in the summertime until I read a book. I was forced to read a book if I wanted to go out and have free time to play or do anything like that. And that hasn't been going on for a long time. So when you talk about community, we don't really have defined communities. You know, when we're talking about black people, we have black people who are housed together or forced to live together and just deal with each other, but we don't really do things in our own self-interest anymore.
And this is true. We have to look at in Philadelphia what happened during the Civil Rights era, because those people rode on the coattails of the Black Panther Party, the Nation of Islam, Chike Akua. And we're thinking, as a younger person, that now that they're there, it would be a better opportunity for us to step on their shoulders, stand on their heads, and take the next baton to move it to the next generation. It doesn't happen that way today for some specific reason. I think that we're in these positions now. I know we're in these positions now, and we're not doing what we're supposed to do as a people.
And Timothy also, I guess, last week spoke, and he just stated today, that when you're talking about activism, you're not talking about you're doing it based on something that a white person or a white group is doing to now. It's a long-term struggle, and a part of our problem is a lot of stuff we do is reactionary. The problem with our education for our children in the city of Philadelphia, it's been a long-going standing problem. It just didn't happen with this whole thing about them wanting to close the schools. It's been a long problem. We have a problem with the people who are educating our children, how they look at our children, how they feel about our children. It's been they don't even give them their proper history in the school. So this thing is just a long ongoing problem, but we're reacting to it, but we need to be sitting down and thinking about 10 to 15 years out what we want our education to look like for our children in the city of Philadelphia. We need to stop reacting all the time, get down and have some plans written out and implement those plans for our children.
So what you're saying to me is the brother that I'm talking to now and Elliott, who's next to you and talking to the audience, is we need that think tank. So we need that one particular think tank to keep us on the right track. And that's one thing the Black Panther Party was in Chike Akua. They were think tanks, man.
I want to thank you for your call, Brother Timothy.
Right.
Brother Pinkney, before we take a break,
absolutely.
You want to comment on the caller?
Okay, my brother.
No, before we take a break, you can comment on...
Before you take a break?
Yes.
Yes, I thank you, my brother, for calling in, and let me just say that what you brothers have been describing is what we call in the Black Panther Party, we have to be scientific socialists. In other words, and when I say socialist, I'm coming from the standpoint of Ujamaa, collectivity. We must think in terms of the future, not just the now, but the future, whether that future is 10, 15, 20, 30, or 40 years hence. Okay, we must be scientific, as Brother Malcolm said, in our approach. And I believe it was Brother Elliott, correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole point of you were so correct when you said we react. You see, we become reactionary. We've got to stop reacting, become critical thinkers, and instead of reacting, we must analyze and respond. There's a big difference between reacting and responding. Responding calls for critical thought and planning ahead.
Thank you. You made my night, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation with the lecturer, columnist, writer, and activist, Brother Larry Pinkney. Stay with us. Our online callers can join this conversation also at 1-866-361-0900. We have one waiting. I see it's Kit from South Carolina. We'll be right to you, Kit, after we take a brief break. Kit and Jacob, you're up next. From antiquity to the present, our people need to develop a new paradigm. It's time for an awakening. Sundays, 7 p.m. Welcome back. Time for an awakening, and we're joined in conversation tonight with writer, lecturer, columnist, and activist, Brother Larry Pinkney, former veteran of the Black Panther Party, the former minister of the Interior of the Republic of New Africa, and the former political prisoner. Also now columnist for the Boston Globe, San Francisco Bayview newspaper, the Black Commentator, and Intrepid Report, and many others. Brother Pinkney?
Yes, sir.
Well, before I mention some other points I want you to go into, I want to, we have a caller from that's long distance, so we're going to get him right on. Let's go to Kit in South Carolina. Kit?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm enjoying the show.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. I'm going to make my comments very brief, and I do have one question. We can't be oppressed without the cooperation of people that look like us. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission. Is there anyone there who's familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
I've heard of it.
Okay.
I have heard of it.
Please Google Mississippi Sovereignty Commission. It will explain to a great detail the plight that we face and the cooperation from people that look like us who are selling us out every day. The white politicians don't care, and the black politicians are too afraid to care. My question is, Congressman Bobby Rush was dishonorably discharged from the United States military. Is there anyone who can shed any light on that? And later on, he received an honorable discharge. How did that happen? What did he have to agree to get that dishonorable discharge changed to an honorable discharge?
Wow, I was totally unaware of that, though politician that he is now, I can't honestly say that I'm surprised, but I was totally unaware of that.
Please check it out.
Yes, I will.
Thank you for your contribution, Brother Kit, and call again.
I will. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Brother Pinkney, let me read something to you, and I want you to talk about this. There's a scripture in the Bible in Ephesians 6:12 that states, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." We seen last week, if we buy into the popular rhetoric, the president can't get things done because he's always running into interference. But we seen last week that House Bill 658 flew through Congress and the Senate with bipartisan support.
Mm-hmm.
The House voted for the passage of the FAA bill that funds over 30,000 drones to surveil Americans. Mm-hmm. And the majority to be armed initially with shotgun tasers. Talk about that, Brother Pinkney, because I know you've talked about it in several of your articles. But go into that.
This is. I'm so glad you actually brought this up, my brother. This is why we need to wake up. The bottom line is that we need to get away from this nonsense about, he just can't get things done. What do you mean he can't get things done? On the third day of his in office of his first term, Obama was bombing Pakistan. Now, you hear me? The third day of his first term, he was bombing Pakistan with drones, the sovereign nation. All right? How could we possibly think that this wouldn't come home, as Malcolm said, wouldn't come home to roost? What goes around, as we said back in the day and still say today, what goes around comes around. And the reality is that we have to be honest first and foremost with ourselves. Just like the words in Curtis Mayfield's song that you just played, beautiful cut, where he says, "Let us teach the children that freedom's never been free." In other words, this is an ongoing struggle. And as far as these drones, and Americans had better wake up, be they black, white, brown, red, or yellow, they better wake up and understand what time it really is. And what time it really is it's time for us to say no more. This has got to stop. And as the previous caller pointed out, the complicity of people who look like us, i.e. of color, without their complicity, much of this hell that we're going through would not be taking place. But it's complicity on the part of, in this case, other people of color, and particularly blacks as well as others, okay? I remember, since you quoted the Bible, I think it was Ephesians 6, chapter 6, verse 12, I always refer to James chapter 2, verse 26, I believe. But in any event, in the book of James, the verse says very simply that faith without works is dead. Faith without works. In other words, we got to do something. We got to wake up. We've got to critically think and then do something about it.
Let's go to Jacob in Olney. Jacob?
Hello?
Oh, this is Joe. Joe, hold on 1 second. I think we've got one to hit. Let's go to Jacob in Olney. Jacob?
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Jacob in Olney?
Yeah,
Jacob?
peace be unto you, brother.
How are you, Jacob?
All right. How y'all doing, man?
Good. How's a brother?
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm blessed. Look, I heard the brother just say that, and I heard the program last week. The drones I'm concerned about is these drone bullets that fly through the black neighborhoods that's fired by people who look like
Jacob,
us.
stop it. Jacob, stop it. Stop it. Jacob, we're talking about the president that you support wholeheartedly every week, which I don't have any problem with, because you're entitled to different opinions. At the beginning, before he became president, he talked about his anti-war stance. That's what he ran. His platform, become president, was anti-war and pulling out. There's more drone bombs in these different sovereign nations than when Bush was in the office.
All right. Well,
and black people were the main people that were against Bush and his military strategies and tactics. Come on now, Jacob.
Okay, but
Jacob, we got to stand up.
No, I understand.
He's passing these bills. They're not going. He's the one that's looking at the bills and passing the bills.
All right,
he is.
Okay, I'm going with that. Again.
Don't let it. You got to be critical about it. You can like him, but there's nothing wrong with you looking at the man and some of his policies and saying, "Hey, he's wrong on this. I don't agree with that, but I agree with this." Come on, you can't give him. You can't let him slide like that, Jacob. Come on.
No, I'm saying that's the opinion you came up with. I don't know what's happening.
Jacob, you know what's happening. Stop the nonsense.
I'm saying I don't know the reason for these drone bombings in Pakistan.
To kill people.
Let me say this here. If there's some people in Pakistan that's planning to do harm where I live,
innocent children and women are getting or killed. You know what they call them? They call them collateral damage. It's still children and women being killed innocently.
Let's get Brother Pinkney in on this. Brother Pinkney?
They're being killed right in our neighborhood.
Jacob, hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Brother Pinkney, you heard Jacob's argument.
Well,
you speak to
I call
this.
that a non-argument. The reality is that argument was exactly the same argument, frankly, that was used to defend the butcherous policies of the Bush-Cheney regime. Come on, get real.
Well, let me ask my question, and then I'll get on. Let me ask my question. I was going to ask the original question.
We still got love for you, Jacob. So go ahead.
I got love for you, brother.
Okay, brother.
Should we put any of the blame on black people for not doing the things that we should do in this time to get off of the bottom? That's educationally, economically, politically, and the other one, my brother Pinkney. If you were the supreme leader of black people, what would be one of the first things you would ask us to do to help pull us off the bottom? Because focusing on Pakistan ain't going to do a darn thing for these bullets, again, I repeat, that's flying in my community, hitting my people right now. I'm worried about them drone bullets.
Thank you.
But the drone bullets are right here. The drone bullets are right here.
And they're being fired by Obama.
Afghanistan, Yemen, Bahrain, and so on. So, we're talking about the same thing. And secondly, to answer your question about supreme leader of black people, I will never be a supreme leader of anything.
Well, I'm saying if you were.
I'm a part of a collective. Okay? Be they black, white, brown, red, or yellow.
Thank you for your call, Jacob.
Obama as the supreme leader, I see him as the president of the United States. But I just said that hyper, just to see what would you have us do to help us get off the bottom, because again, just pointing to somebody ain't gonna get the job done.
Thank you for your call, Jacob.
We're not just pointing to someone. We had a 10-point program in the Black Panther Party. We serve the people body and soul. Many of us were killed. Many of us are still in prison for over 30 and 40 years. What I would do would be what I'm doing precisely right now, and that is to urge all people, not just black people, but in this case, Black America to wake up and understand that it is we who are responsible for our own quote-unquote deliverance. We, collectively, are responsible. We must take responsibility and act accordingly, and that begins in our minds and our hearts.
Let's go to Mark in South Jersey. Mark.
Hey, brothers.
How are you?
Mark. How are you, brother?
All right. How y'all doing tonight?
Good.
All right. Well, I think y'all hit it right on the head on the head at the end there when you were talking about us acting as a collective. That's the key to this whole thing. Since this country's inception, this game against us only works when we're divided, and that's an issue of us taking the bait of their miseducation. We have to understand, and this is a scripturally rooted foundation, in that we are members of one body. It's just we have to break it down to the least common denominator. If your body didn't work cohesively, you wouldn't be able to walk down the street, and that's mainly what we're suffering from. We got to get on the same page, be in one mind, and then we need to get to the critical analysis. We need to do that think tanking. Because, whenever we do something, it's evidence in this world. When we do it, we're the best at it. More times than not, it's something physical. We have to translate that to the cerebral, to the intellectual. You understand? And focus on that and become masters of that and put our efforts, flex those muscles in the right way. And we need proper leadership. The thing is, a lot of times, those of us in the leadership, those of us of influence, we fall way to the lust of this world. Those things that, wanting things. We got to get away from that. And that's the main thing. This whole system, that's what people don't understand. We don't need to tweak this thing. This system needs to go out the window because it's wrong. We have to understand that. And you can't love the things in the world and get to do the things we need to do.
Hey, Mark, on that note, what I'm going to say, half slave, half free.
There you go. You can't serve God and man.
Peace, my brother. Thank you for the call.
God bless.
Thank you, brother.
Let's go to Hassan in Tennessee.
Oh
Hassan?
yeah, Rashawn.
Rashawn, I'm sorry, sir.
I definitely enjoyed the conversation. I do want to give a reply to the brother who has not actually, it's not a personal thing, but who had on his cheerleader T-shirt for the president.
Wait a minute, Hassan. You said you had on a cheerleader T-shirt.
Because that's the thing. They want to turn every single discussion when we have a community discussion into a pep rally for the president. And that's not fair. We got bigger issues we're trying to tackle here.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if you're going to wear this cheerleader shirt and then try to force the agenda about bullets, well, the one thing he's never had any type of attack plan for us is an economic agenda for the inner city or for African people in these rural areas. If he had that, some bullets would stop flying in Chicago immediately.
Brother Pinkney?
You have a point there, and what you reminded me of, my brother, is the fact that, I don't know if you all recall this, but back in 2008, you recall when Obama said that there is no Black America? Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And that sent shudders through my mind and my body, because I knew what that really meant. What it meant was that he was going to do precisely what he's been doing now for approximately 5 years, and that is trying to destroy our history of our struggle, trying to act as if it's all in the past, when in fact it's worse now than ever before. It comes back to us, collective, or what I call scientific collectivism. We must be thinkers, critical thinkers, and doers. Thank you so much, my brother. I'm on the same page.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call from Tennessee. We appreciate you, my brother. Thank you so much.
All right, now.
One thing I would like to say before we go to our next caller. This goes out to my wonderful brother Jacob. President Obama, we're talking about these bullets in our communities and us taking action about that. But President Obama, with all the conflict that's going over there in Israel, Palestine, and all the other areas, he is making a trip out to Israel. His first trip since 2008. One of our listeners sent us an email to talk about that. So he has an agenda, and he has thoughts about all these other places that have conflict. He's aware of it, and he does what he has to do from the corporate structure and the people above him they're pulling the strings and letting him know, you need to be here, you need to be there, you need to follow our agenda. So, Jacob, you need to remember that President Obama has an agenda, he has a mission, and he's carrying it out. And we're not always on the top of that list. That's my only problem with the brother. We're not even on that list.
Let's squeeze one more in here. Let's go to Joe in Germantown. Joe?
Yeah, how you doing, Brother Elliott?
How are you, Joe?
Hi, Brother Reggie. And Brother Pinkney, how you doing, my dear brother?
Well, thank you, my brother. It's good to hear your voice. Thank you. I'm doing fine.
I'm glad to hear that, Brother Pinkney. I had to laugh just now real quick to my subject matter about the brother said about a certain caller being a cheerleader. Yeah, he should be a cheerleader on the sidelines for the Dallas Cowboys. He cheerlead good for the president, Dallas caller from Arnie.
Come on, don't be so rough. Don't be rough with my brother like that. I got love for that brother.
I love my brother, too. I won't mess with our brother today. I let it go, but he's amazing, I tell you. But anyway, real quick, though. Brother, I got two comments. I want to talk about State of the Union, but first let me deal with the Black Panther Party. I will always, Brother Pinkney, I mean this from my heart, be forever grateful. I grew up in North Philadelphia, down in there, 60th and Susquehanna, and I just happened to be blessed that my family at that time, we had a household where I had breakfast every morning, so it wasn't an issue for me. But a lot of my, friends and classmates, they was in a different financial situation. I mean, we was far from being financially stable. We just was a little better off. And I remember the one for the Black Panther Party, Brother Pinkney. Many of black children, beautiful young black men and women, would have been going to elementary school hungry, were not for the Black Panthers. Every morning, Brother Pinkney, the Black Panthers around the corner, had a headquarters around the corner from me. They would feed these children and make sure they had a nice hearty breakfast every morning before they went to school. But you can't learn on an empty stomach, as you well know. And on top of it, they provide the sickle cell anemia vaccines and stuff like that. So I will forever be grateful for the Black Panther Party, because like I say, there's so much for our people and stuff, So I want to put that right out there out front. And second, on the State of the Union, which Brother Ralph commented on a few minutes ago, that is one of the biggest farces, fiascos, charades. Have you noticed, Brother Pinkney and Brother Elliott and Reggie, when they had these bogus State of the Union addresses, whether it be the current coward in the White House or whether it be Bush or the rest of them bums, do you ever notice when they come in, when the president comes in and the senators behind him, it's a love fest. Everybody's hugging, slapping, high-fiving, the blacks kissing the whites kissing the blacks, the men kissing the women, vice versa, the president hugging and kissing everybody. So you ask yourself, we say, well, if it's such a love fest in there, well, damn it, why can't they get nothing done for the people? Why is it black people catching hell in this society? They're like the brother said, only bill can get passed is a drone bill or some bill that's destructive to killing our people. That can pass with bipartisan support. But when it comes to stuff about black people, about the minimum wage, getting raised, things that's really critical, they can't get raised. But all you see every time is the State of the Union is this big bogus love fest and stuff, which is nothing but a charade. And it's amazing, Brother Pinkney, how people in this country, especially black people, go for that charade. It's nothing but a complete farce and a fiasco. And that's my comment. And Brother Pinkney, you keep doing what you're doing, brother. May Allah continue to bless you and your family. You stay strong, bro.
Thank you so much for your call, Joe. Brother Pinkney, that hour goes so fast. It goes so fast. It does. and I just enjoyed having you here. And I echo our caller, Ralph, that called our first caller, when he thanked you for your work, your perseverance. You as a young man getting out here, becoming active in one of the most dynamic. I mean, if we looked up the definition of grassroots organization, it would be the Panthers there. That organization was historic, and you were a part of it. You spent time in jail as a political prisoner, and you're still out here working. I just want to thank you for your perseverance and for your stick-to-itiveness.
Right back at you, because I'm a part of a whole, a part of a collective, and without you, I would not exist, my brother.
We're going to reach out to you in the future because you're a part of the independent black media that we need to talk to. We have other forms of media that we get the wrong story, but that's why I appreciate, when our program can reach out to people that's independent sources where we can get some real news and some real stories to hand back to our listening audience. Before we leave tonight, Brother Pinkney, just give out any contacts, any emails where people can get the articles, your Twitter handle, anything you want to give out.
Well, there are two sources or three that I would like to inform folks about, all of your listening audience, and ask that you would tell other people. One is the Black Activist Writers Guild. That's blackactivistwg.org. Go on that, and you'll see the Larry Pinkney archives on that. Hopefully, you'll find it inspiring. The other sites that I would urge you to go to read my material and critical thoughts would be Intrepid Report. That's intrepidreport.com. I write a weekly column, and also Black Commentator. That's blackcommentator.com, where I write a column called Keeping It Real. And at this point, I just want to say thank you. Thank both of you, brothers. Thank you, Brother Elliott. Thank you, Brother Reggie. Thanks to the listening audience, all of you. And I just want to say the struggle continues. And as we said back in the day, and we still say it, all power to the people.
Peace. I want to thank everybody for listening to the program this evening. Lively discussion as always, and we'll be back next week, Lord willing, to continue on this path towards an awakening. Peace.